Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Tuesday. It's January 20th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and you can see it was a very bearish day on the daily chart. Um, there was actually a gap down yesterday, and then we had this follow through selling today. We're getting in oversold territory, so doesn't mean we can't go lower yet, and we might very well go lower. But we are starting to get into oversold territory, so we could see a bounce soon. I would say keep an eye on this support here tomorrow if we trade down to that level, because that might be a likely place we might bounce. As of now, it looks like we're trying to bounce at that uh, next to the last band there, the purple looking band. But definitely sold off since we made that new high, and it looks like we could continue lower here at this point. So we'll just have to see what tomorrow brings, but definitely a bearish day today. A lot of mixed trading in there too, but we had that late. We really sold off hard late and kind of dropped a good bit. But early on, it was a little sideways and mixed and choppy and with a downward bias. But before the day was over, it was relatively bearish. So, but let's flip over to that 2,000 tick chart. We'll take a look at it and go through the trades, and we'll wrap this day up. But let's flip over to the 2,000 tick chart. Okay, no news items to worry about today, really, but you can see we sold off. We actually gapped down yesterday. This little short piece in here was yesterday's trading, and I don't know if you can see the line here or not, but that's where we opened up at 5 o'clock on Sunday, 5 o'clock Central Time, my time anyway. And we've continued to trade lower, and then we just kind of chopped around, and we had a mild uptrend here until maybe 10 or 10:30, and then we started slowly rolling over, and then the next thing you know, the bottom fell out. We traded down. We closed a little off the lows, but it was mostly a bearish day um, in the end. So, but you can see this sideways stuff. It looked like we had a range here early on. We broke out. We just couldn't go anywhere, and then we came down. We broke out about the equal distance on the other side as well. So, but let's zoom in here. We'll go through the trades and we'll wrap this day up. It's going to be another short week since since yesterday was a holiday, trading holiday, and not much going on for the most part yesterday. So I've said it a bunch of times. Don't waste your time trying to trade those noon close time trades. They're just not worth it. You can see here, and there's not much going on. There was a little movement here, but it's just not worth wasting your time with. You can't really start trading till about 7 o'clock, which would have come in here, and there's not much going on there. So anyway, oops, didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to mark this trade either. I was looking at something else earlier, and that shouldn't be on there. That was like at 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning my time. So the first 7 o'clock came as we're kind of moving right off this high here, and then you had a lower high, and this was maybe by 7:30 or so. Very bearish bar. It's just a lower high off that double top there with a little room back to the EMA. You're just looking for a scalp mostly, but if it goes lower, if this is a range day and we go lower, then you're probably in good shape getting short here off the highs. And that's a pretty good move down. You end up getting two legs down and then it bounces. I didn't mark this one, obviously. That is it's not a second entry technically. I think you could characterize this maybe as a double top and count that as a second entry, but it's not a perfect setup by any means. But maybe you take that entry. You're better off to wait on the higher low, which comes here, and then you got to go long right into the EMA, which is never a good idea. And you can see what happens. We end up going higher, and you wouldn't have got stopped out. But who wants to ride all this out? It's just not worth it. So I don't think you could enter anywhere else in here. And actually, by this point, we had a triple test across here. So I like going short, just playing the range rules. Um, it doesn't end up going very far all the way back down, but you easily get a scalp out of it. And it's tempting to want to go long here, but you can't go long into that resistance. Just don't do it. You need a breakout pullback, which we get one here, but I'd want to see another one, which does happen right here, but you don't get a very good setup, so I don't think you can take it. And then you do get a second entry here, but it's right into the highs, and notice how it reverses. And you actually get two legs down here, and you get a second entry long. Notice you get a close outside and a new low. And that's a retest of this breakout area here. If you drag that on over, you'll see that there. So likely place for prices to bounce on the second entry long. Again, I think you really need a higher low here to make it blue, but this is close because it is a second entry on a retest. So maybe you take that trade. I marked it green. It's not perfect, but there's some reasons to like that trade. That's just the first entry. There's a second entry here, but signal bar is no good. And really what you get here is two legs of correction and then a higher low. So I like going long there. It looked like it might have been a mistake at first, but no, we ended up turning back up. And there is a second entry short here, but it doesn't break lower, and you get this little small doji. I don't like going short there. So it runs down, close outside, new low, and then by the counts, there's a second entry long there. It's a little congested here. It is support across there. You can count it as a triple test. I marked it green because of the congestion, but if you want to be aggressive, this is one you might take it. And it's close to being blue. But I just think with all those sideways bars, it's a little hard to make that blue. So anyway, just the first entry there, and we run up, we get a little failed breakout. Again, that's a second entry short. It's two legs up. Does that close in the lower one half? Not really. Could you take that trade? Yeah, maybe. I'll mark it green. You're better off with the lower high, and it doesn't come till it's right into the EMA, so you can't really enter there. And this is like a third entry here, so you would need a higher low, which does come right here, but you don't get a setup, and you get an inside bearish bar with a break above it. So again, I don't like going long there. We do run up here, and I think you could argue you got a triple test with this break higher. You could not, I marked this green. Now you couldn't enter this one tick below the signal bar here because it's just too much stem. However, it broke higher first and failed and turned down that far away from the EMA. If you wanted to enter there, maybe you do. The only problem is you don't have a break of this channel yet, but most breakouts fail and you're way away from the EMA. So it's one of those that maybe if you understand that this is mostly fully bullish and it's an engulfing bar, so maybe you enter that because you can get a really good entry there. The problem is it's above this support resistance line, and it could act like support, which it ends up doing, but it ends up going on lower anyway. So maybe you take that one. And we run back down here. I didn't draw the trend, the steeper trend channel, but you get a break and a new low, and it does turn up there. I don't like going long there either. It's just a first entry. But it runs back up, turns back down, and that sets the trend line, but there's no setup there either. And then we come back here again, and we get a second entry. Again, it breaks higher first and fails and turns down, but again, there's too much stem on that, so you got to wait for that to close. And that's a fairly large signal bar. I marked it because it's a good setup, but do you really want to take that? I don't know if you want to risk 26 ticks on that or not. What you might do is let it break lower and then back up and see if you can get a little better entry, which you could have, or either wait on the lower high, which just doesn't come. So that's always the risk, is you may not get a lower high, and so you have to ask yourself, am I willing to take the risk on this bar? And it's a really big bar at 26 ticks, so something to think about. But anyway, we run down here and we're just working sideways. Um, Notice we got this short term here, and we get the break and we move to a new low, and you get at least a triple test there, and you're still a little ways away from the EMA. We're probably going to go back to the trend line, and maybe even get with it being the midline here where we bounced a couple of times before. That's the other thing, you got previous support across there. Maybe you go along there just to try to get a scalp out of it, and if you get lucky, it may do what it does here. And notice how you get this spike and channel up. That was a really strong move right there. Um, but anyway, we get this channel up, close outside new high. There's no chance to get short or anything there. Notice that we do have multiple tests across there. 1, 2, 3. The problem here again, that's you got a 2-bar matching low, so you could use either signal bar. Uh, we get a close outside here and a new low, and then we get again. We don't really make a new low because that it's an equal low, but I think you could count that. Maybe you take that one. Again, it's one you might argue to be green. I'm just not crazy about it. I would probably wait. But this turns out to be a really nice move up. And again, we've been bouncing across there multiple times. And this is also not only a triple test, but you could treat this like a higher low off of this low here. The only problem is we got this bigger channel working down, and that's the first close outside, and we don't get a new low. But sometimes that happens, especially on a range day. So, but this thing is super strong. It just rockets up. If you caught this, this is obviously the trade of the day, and you could have ridden this a long way up. But it just keeps going and going and going. But it's a spiking channel. I don't see any other entries up here unless you recognize the type of trade this is and you say, okay, I want to take every pullback to the, you probably would recognize that maybe not here because it's sideways, but maybe here. And so if you recognize that, maybe any of these other trend, these signal bars that pull back to the key entry point, maybe you take them. This one's even closed. I think you could argue fit, even though it closes outside, it's right there at the line. Any of these others I would probably skip. And then you get 2 legs back. Unfortunately, that's not a very good signal bar. Now you do get a higher low here that you could have taken, but it doesn't break above it on the next bar, and you get that inside bearish bar. So you can't take that entry. It ends up pushing to a new high, and it would have worked, but you just can't enter on that bar. And there is a 2-bar matching low. And you might say, okay, well, can I enter on that bar? But that looks really sideways and congested. So I think you have to sit that out. And of course, it makes that new high and just instantly reverses and heads down. And I don't see anything you can really trade on the way down there. These are all first entries, and this is like a 3rd entry here, but again, it doesn't break above it. It's just real congested. Working up, close outside, new high. I would count this as a new low here, so that's just a first entry. It looks a little like 2 legs up, and you do get a close outside and a new high. With it's relatively low risk bar, 8 ticks. But I don't know if I wouldn't enter there. I think it's too big a chance you get another push up and then get a second entry short. So I would skip it. Notice it runs back down and it bounces here again. And we do get a close outside and a new low all in one bar here. And now you've got at least a triple test of the upper side of this range here. And that's what you want to see. You want to see it test this multiple times and then take off, and it does here. So I like entering on this one. You would have been another nice move up. Unfortunately, it doesn't. You get a close outside pretty quick and a move to a new high. And that's a second entry short up there. The problem is we turn here and we turn there, and it's not real consistent. So it's a long way away from the EMA, and it's a second entry, and you do have a close outside and a new high on this channel working up here. So there's reasons to take that trade. It's not perfect. So for that reason, I made it green. And if you had previous resistance up here, I'd probably be willing to make that red, but we don't. So I did make it green. And prices do take off again. I mean, we're just in a range. It's just like it's just a range, choppy mixed range day. And we actually get 2 legs down in the second entry that fails pretty quickly and turns down. And then we reverse back up. I don't want to, I don't, even though you're way away from the EMA, the fact that it's still kind of holding the last few bars on that trend line, I think you have to wait for a higher low there. And you just don't get one. You get one, but that's not a tradable high or low. Prices have moved way too far off of these lows to consider that a higher low you could trade. And that's just the first entry, and that's just the first entry. But notice you do get the break and 2 legs up to a new high, and then it turns down up here where we've been getting resistance again. Fairly bearish bar. There's a little stem on it, but I still think that closes in the lower 1/3. So I like that one just to try to, you may get another leg down to the other side because we're kind of, the problem is these are expanding each time. We're making lower lows and higher highs until here we actually make a lower high. That's another reason I like this one. And so that's a pretty good move down. Close outside new low, but no setup there. There is a higher low here, but you can't go long right there. And then it turns down on another second entry, but the signal bar is no good. And then this is just the first entry, although you do get a close outside and a new low. Away from the EMA. It's one you might say, okay, I want to try to ride that back. I'm not crazy about it because it makes a new low. For that reason, you probably need a higher low. But again, you don't get one. You just get a couple of quick swings. You get a break and another swing to a new high here, but no setup there. But notice you do get a pretty good signal bar here on a lower high, and it tried to go higher 2 more times. So I like entering on that one just because it's right off a possible key entry point there as well. And that turns out to be a pretty good, and most breakouts fail because we got back inside. You could almost consider this like a breakout again. If you didn't like that one, a few minutes later, you get a second entry short here again. The problem with this one is it's right into the support resistance, but you can see the last few times down here, we've pushed on through there. And so you got good proof that this is not really holding as support lately. Prices keep bouncing here, but they're pushing on through first. So there's a good chance you're going to retest this low. And you can see this thing just keeps going. These are all just first entries though, unfortunately. And then you finally bottom out here. You just start working sideways until you break out. And you'd probably look for a measured move here. And you can see we went a little higher. But that's 2 legs back and a second entry short. And we do have a break and new high here. You can clearly see the 3-bar trend there. Break, new high. And that's a nice signal bar with, again, only 8 ticks. I like entering there. And again, it's a pretty nice move down. So it would have been a good entry. And so you got the break, move to a new low, and then it tries to get out here. But notice we're working up, close outside, new high. And that's a pullback to retest this breakout area. Again, you might wait on the lower high, which comes here, which is the better place to enter. But you might enter that one because you got the break and the new high. And so it could turn down, especially when it retests that support and it holds. Again, you're better off to wait on the lower high, which comes here, and that turns out to be a really great move. If you caught that, you can ride this pretty much all the way down. Now, there is a second entry. Most of these are just first entries all the way down. There is a second entry short here, but notice where you're having to go short, and we've bounced there twice. So notice how it does. It even bounced there the third time, and it takes a minute, but it ends up going lower. But you can't risk that because a lot of times it won't go lower and it'll reverse. So that's why that is not marked. That's just, it's sideways. There's a lot of stems in there. You're better off just to sit tight and wait. And notice what happens. We do get a couple of swings to a new low and reverse. I don't think you want to go long there. But notice you got a trend working up, close outside, move to a new high. And now look how many times we've tested this from underneath, and we test it again. You're better off to wait on the lower high just in case, because you do make a new high here, but it still closes below. So this is real close to being red, but I still made it green because there's some question marks there because it could push one more leg up and get back inside the range. It doesn't, and it takes off and turns out to be a pretty nice trade. But there's a little risk in that happening there. It's not a guarantee. So, but it turns out to be a really nice move down again. Just first entries all the way down till you get your close outside a new low, and then two swings to a new low. And notice what happens here. It breaks lower first and fails and turns up, and that's all bearish. And this is a higher low, double bottom type setup. So you could go long there. I don't know that I'd wait and go long above that stem there, but if you went long above on the engulfing bar, I think you're good there. And it's a pretty good move up, but you quickly get a close outside new high and you're going lower again. No setup there to go short. Nothing here you can really go short on. This is all two sideways as well. But we do get a close outside and a new low, and then we make a higher low, and you're still way away from the EMA. I like taking that one back. Just looking for a scalp there, unless you catch a bottom. It's possible you could catch a bottom, but there's plenty of room to scalp out back before that, the trend line and the EMA. But we've already had a break of the trend line, just in case you're going to make another leg down. Just make sure there's room back, and that runs up, and you do get a second entry up here, but no setup. Runs down, close outside, and it tries to make a new low, but it ends up bouncing a little bit before that new low comes in. And it's tempting to take this higher low, but we don't have a new low here, and that's a little somewhat congested. So I would sit tight and just wait and see what happens, and that takes you on into 230. Notice there's a nice second entry short there, new low, first entry, second entry. But that's too far after 230, so I just don't think there's anything else there you can trade. But yeah, not a bad trading day. And this was a really good sell off, and there were a couple of good moves that would have really paid off for you if you caught one of them with a runner. But it just depends on how you played it. And but yeah, what looked like was going to be mostly sideways or a mild rally that we might close slightly higher ends up just selling off like pretty strongly before the day's over. So there it is. I think you could probably argue there were two legs up here, here and here. And you can see that. That's pretty good. And you might even measure from here, but to me, there's two legs back here, so that's where I would have measured from originally. And it took a little while, but they got it up there, and then it reversed. So that would have given you a nice target and a place to look. That would have given you more of a reason to look for a reversal there. So anyway, there it is. Hope you had a good trading day today. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. Again, it's going to be a short week because we had Monday off. But the days just seem to be flying by every day. We're already halfway through, more than halfway through January, which is hard to believe because it feels like we just had Christmas and New Year's. Actually, it does seem like we just had Thanksgiving not long ago. So I don't know where the time goes. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.